plays that with you guys better than me.
Which one?
He plays that better than me, doesn't
Trying
he?
to sound like you?
Yeah. Don't he play that with you guys?
Well, and then you do creative. And then you do creative. Kind of sound like people.
What are we doing? These two.
And then we'll do creative elements. It's time to stand like a people. You know it's time to stand like a people today. It's time to stand like a people. Stand up and say, no more wondering. We are finally on our way. It's time to stand like a people. You know it's time to stand like a people today. It's time to stand like a people. Stand up and say, no more wondering. We are finally on our way. Brothers and sisters, we need you all today. There's work to do as a people, and it won't go away. We're the chosen, called by heaven to do the work that must be done. Alive with faith and purpose to bring our people together as one. You know it's time to stand like a people. You know it's time to stand like a people today. It's time to stand like a people. Stand up and say, no more wondering. We are finally on our way. Our children need to see themselves in a much more positive light, to see that nothing is impossible when they try with all their might. We must build the schools that will teach them they are children of kings and queens. It's up to us to save them. Let us work and build and sing. You know it's time to stand like a people. You know it's time to stand like a people today. It's time to stand like a people. Stand up and say, no more wondering. We are finally on our way. Our mothers and fathers and elders, they have given us all they can. They stood up and fought to protect us in this hard and bitter land. Their trials must give us courage, every woman and man. It's on our freedom, that's all our. We pledge our lives to take back our land. You know it's time to stand like a people. You know it's time to stand like a people today. It's time to stand like a people. Stand up and say, no more wondering. We are finally on our way. fathers and elders, they have given us all they can. They stood up and fought to protect us in this hard and bitter land. Their cause must give us courage, every woman and man. None are free unless all are. We pledge our lives to take back our land. You know it's time to stand like a people. You know it's time to stand like a people today. It's time to stand like a people. Stand up and say, no more wondering, we are finally on our way. All right. That's it. Okay, here we go. We're going to do,
What are we doing, you guys?
Creator has a master plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. There was a time when peace was on the earth, joy and happiness did reign, and each man knew his worth. In my heart I yearn for the Spirit's return, and I cry while time flies. The Creator has a master plan, peace and happiness for every man. The Creator makes but one demand, happiness for all the land. There is a place where love will always shine, and rainbows are the of a love so divine, and the glow of that love is like the stars above, and it's free. Can't you see it's free? The Creator has a master plan, peace and happiness every man. The Creator has a master plan, peace and happiness.
The Creator has a master plan. Creator has a master plan, peace and happiness for every man. The Creator has a one demand,
Playing time.
Let's get up. Well, there you go. All right. This is.
Y'all, that means y'all can get up and stand.
Yeah, y'all can get us through. This is like
Everybody
a
can get
true.
up and
Don't be scared.
You guys rock this. I gotta set this up. Okay. I knew that.
Get up.
That's good. That's good.
Get up. Stand up.
Stand up for your rights. Get up. Stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up. Stand up. Stand up for your rights.
Stand up for your rights.
Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Here we go now. A preacher man don't tell me that heaven is under the earth. I know that you don't know what life is really worth. All that glitters not gold, and half the story has never been told. So now you see the light. What you gonna do? Stand up for your rights.
Come on now.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up.
Get up and stand up.
Don't give up the fight. Most people think great God to come from the sky. Sky, 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 sky. Take away everything and make everybody feel high, 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 high. But if you know what life is worth, you would look for yours on earth. And now that we see the light,
What you gonna do?
we're gonna stand up for our rights.
Come on now.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights.
Stand up for your rights.
Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
Don't give up the fight.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight.
Well, I'm sick and tired of your ism, schism. Gonna die and go to heaven in Jesus'
Jesus'
name.
name.
We know and we understand the living God is an African man. You can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. So now you see the light.
What you gonna do?
We're gonna stand up for our rights.
Come on now.
Get up, stand up.
Get up, stand up.
Stand up for your rights.
Stand up for your
Get up,
rights.
stand up.
Get up and stand up.
Don't give up the fight.
Don't give up the fight.
Get up, stand up.
Get up, stand up.
Stand up for your rights.
Stand up for your
Get up,
rights.
stand up.
Get up, we'll say.
Don't give up the fight.
Whoa-yo! 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 Ho-ho!
Why-yo, yo, yo.
Whoa-yo!
Why-yo,
Whoa-yo! Ho-ho!
why-yo, yo, yo.
We'll say.
We'll say,
Sacred African way.
sacred African way.
We'll say.
We'll say,
Stand up today.
stand up today.
Come on, get up.
Stand up. Stand up for your rights.
Stand up for your
Get up,
rights.
stand up.
Get up, we'll say.
Don't give up the fight.
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 Don't give up the
Don't
fight.
give up the fight.
Don't give up the fight.
Don't give up the fight.
Never give up the fight.
Never give up the fight.
Good job. Yeah.
Just like we rehearsed it.
Good morning, we'll say. How y'all doing? One of the thank you. One of the things I like most about Wose is that, every once in a while we step outside of our normal flow of service and we let somebody come up to do something. I wasn't scheduled to be here today, but I had something I wanted to share, so here I am. This is normally our time for our historical tribute, and Brother Shango is somewhere. Brother Shango, right in the front row, is going to come give it to us. But before that, most of you know that I just returned from a trip to Kemetic, and so I'm back. And a lot of people asked me yesterday to talk about it. I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to do that later. But I did want to share one quick story, okay? I want to share one quick story. And so when you first get to Kemetic, when I first got there, I landed in Cairo. And you walk around in Cairo. When you see the sites, whenever you see a site, you have to walk through a marketplace, through vendors. And the vendors in Cairo are very, very, very aggressive. They come up to you. They try to put stuff in your pocket. They won't take no for an answer. They follow you around, right? And so you get into a mode where I'm walking around and I'm just as aggressive. I'm saying, no, that's all. No, get away, no. Okay, so eventually I left Cairo and I went south into Upper Egypt, down to first Luxor and then Aswan. Now, when you get south, the vendors are a lot less aggressive. Some of them are actually peaceful, but I'm already in my mode. No. So I'm walking around saying no. So now I went to this place called the Unfinished Obelisk. It's an obelisk that our guide said Queen Hatshepsut started, but they never got it built. So it's still in the ground where they were building it. And so whenever you go to, like I said, whenever you go to a site, sometimes on the way in, but always on the way out, you have to walk through this marketplace. And so I'm walking through the marketplace in Aswan, leaving, and I'm in my still no mode. And so this brother says to me, he says, where you from? And I said, U.S. And he says, where? And I said, USA. And he said, where? He said, what state? And I said, California. He said, where? California. He said, where? He said, Oakland? And I stopped. And I wanted to say to him, I bet I know Oakland better than you. But I didn't. I said, yeah, I know Oakland. And he smiled at me. He says, I have a friend in Oakland, And so I said, oh. And so he pulls up his Galabea. This is a Galabea. I think that's how you pronounce it, Galabea. This is what most people wear. This is from Egypt. Egyptian cotton. You can clap. Okay. But no, and so he reaches into his Galabea and he pulls out his wallet. And he pulls out a business card and he hands me the business card. And I look at the business card and it has a picture on it and a name and it says, Menu Ampin. And I said, I know that, brother. And he said, no, you don't. And I said, no, I know that, brother. And he said, no, you don't. And I said, oh, Menu Ampin, he's a friend of mine. And he smiled at me, he said, hey. He said, that's my brother. I said, hey, that's my brother too. And so he said, take a message back for me. I need you to take a message to Menu. So, Brother Menu, I hope you don't mind that I'm sharing your message with all of Bose.
Nubian, brother.
Wait. Okay, now, video.
Yeah, Manu, this is my brother. He lives in Auckland. Why you don't come now in Egypt? I wait you in coming Aswan. Abdul from Obelisk.
Okay.
I go to with you Nubian dancing. You remember? We take it many pictures for you in Nubian dancing. Okay, I wait you anytime because I want you.
All right.
Okay?
All right.
Okay,
all right.
man.
So Brother Menu, if you need Brother Abdullah's phone number, I have it for you, right? Thanks, Wilson. And now Brother Shango is going to bring us a historical tribute.
I'm trying. This is such a special day, particularly seeing that little clip and then thinking in terms of bringing Kemetic back to perspective. me and Sister Deborah walked in, who I was. First time I went to Kemetic with Baba Manu, the sister was on the trip with us and whatnot. So seeing her again here is just very special. Like this is a very small world, and we just several plantations away from one another, I'm telling you. Oh, wow. I mean, today, after yesterday, it didn't come in here today. Whew, it's fired up, as they say. I'm going to say something that Brother Ty usually says, so I'm going to say it. I was hoping he wasn't going to say it, and he didn't, so I'm going to say it now. What we practice, what we believe. Our way is not a random path. Our way begins with coherent understanding. It is a way that aims at preserving knowledge of who we are. It is with this conviction that we study the rich heritage of our African people. The way is reciprocity. The way is wholeness. The way is unity and self-determination. It is creativity and collective work and responsibility. Our way is faith, purpose, and cooperative economics. Our way knows no oppression. Our way creates. Our way worships and praises the God of our ancestors. The way is life. The way only destroys destruction. That's a mouthful. The role of history, and to show you how things are tied in. I wish the sister was here so she could just feel what I'm going to say now, because I'm going to give a quote about the role of history, and it came from John Henry Clark. I mean, I did this, I don't know, months ago, working, at least bit by bit working on it. And then lo and behold, the next Sunday, I'm going to be doing this, and she hit John Henry Clark. So here we go about the role of history. History is the clock that people use to tell their time of day. It is the compass that can use to find themselves on the map of human geography. It is the role of history to tell a people where they have been, where they are, and what they are. But most importantly, it is the role of history to tell a people where they still must go and what they must do. And that's what we did here yesterday. That's just what we was doing yesterday.
Retreat.
And then, as the sister mentioned John Henry Clark, and she said one of the people who that he was inspired to become a historian and a person of note. What's the sister's name? She wrote You Guru. Right. Okay. John Henry Clark mentioned her as, no, she mentioned John Henry Clark as someone who was very important and instrumental to her. And in her presentation on the tape, she mentioned some person who she really was inspired by. And that's the person who I'm doing my historical tribute today. So I'm saying, well, all these, these tie-ins and whatnot, and this is someone I don't think that many people is aware of. He was primarily East Coast brother, so a lot of us on the East Coast, I say a good number of us on the East Coast are aware of him. He's a former social caseworker, a psychology counselor, supervising probation officer, training administrator in the New York City Department of Juvenile Justice, assistant professor of psychology at the City University of New York, a master teacher, organizer, and author. You know it is. How many people familiar with Brother Amos? A little hand. Brother Amos. Powerful brother. Powerful brother. He made it plain. But my only problem is, as I was trying to research him, I couldn't find any biographical information. There was just nothing. And the fault is on us. We got to write our own history. Because like that lion understood, the hunter always going to come out on top. But if the lion gives some history, we're going to know that lion ate up a whole bunch of them folks. Whole bunch of them. Anyway, the late Honorable Dr. Wilson was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi in 1941. So, in other words, to me, he went way before his time. And his activities transcended academia in the fields of business, owning and operating various enterprises in the greater New York area. So not only did he do stuff and talk stuff, he worked stuff. He worked it. So I'm going to describe him in essence through the various books that he wrote. And his books, he didn't write that many, but the ones he did write were powerful, and a lot of them was really geared for children as far as the help that they need. He completed his undergraduate degree at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's when he later migrated to New York, where he obtained his PhD for the Fordham University in New York City. Okay, so now I'm just going to somewhat go through some of the books that he wrote. One was entitled The African-Centered Consciousness versus the New World Order, Garveyism in the Age of Globalism. And that, in essence, not as much as a book as it was 2 lectures that he put together, and it challenges all to deal with the various assumptions and false perceptions that the New World Order is somehow ordained that if African people are to progress, they have no other alternative but to remain colonized by white Western interests. This, of course, is patently false. Dr. Wilson debunks this myth with an insightful analysis of the legacy of Marcus Garvey and the proven validity of the African-centered consciousness as necessary psychological and material tools in the struggle for true liberation. His next book, Awakening the Natural Genius of Black Children. African children are naturally precocious and gifted. They begin life with a natural head start. However, their natural genius is frequently underdeveloped and misdirected by the fact that the racist and imperialist status quo politically mandates their intellectual underdevelopment. So in other words, our kids start out smart, then they get dumb and ignorant in school. That's what he's saying. They start out brilliant, but after they get in school, lights out. That's why we need to come here Il Alma Day, so they can maintain that light. Yeah, I'm starting to sound like an old Baptist preacher up here. Okay, Black on Black Violence, the psychodynamics of Black self-annihilation and service of white domination. It's an exploratory perspective on the social, pathological, and political economic causes of Black on Black violence. And that's the essence of it, and why we do what we do, not really understanding what the devil we're doing. Another one of his books, Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. Okay, this is dealing with the education of the Black child, and it deals exclusively with the physical and psychological development of the Black child and the types of processes that can be done on a very positive nature so they can maintain that light within them. Another book, Falsification of African Consciousness, Eurocentric History, Psychiatry, and the Politics of White Supremacy. That exposes the role of Eurocentric history, writing plays, and rationalizing European oppression of African peoples and in the falsification of African consciousness, and contends that the alleged mental and behavioral maladaptiveness of oppressed African peoples is a political, economic necessity for the maintenance of white domination and imperialism. Okay, next one. Understanding Black adolescent male violence, its remediation and prevention. He shows in brilliant detail how American society creates and sustains Black on Black adolescent criminality in its inner cities across the United States. He boldly asserts that the Black on Black adolescent violence is rooted in historical and contemporary white on Black violence. And in his last book, everybody in here should have a copy on their bookshelf, not gaining dust, but reading and implementing. I've got Black on my mind now. Blueprint for Black Power, a moral, political, and economic imperative for the 21st century. So we don't really have to invent wheels and all that stuff. The stuff is already here. We just got to pick up the stuff and use the stuff. Okay? In essence, this book deals with African life into coming millennia is imperiled by white and Asian power. True power must nest in the oversight of the real estate wherever African people dwell. Economic destiny determines biological destiny. Blueprint for Black Power details a master plan for the power revolution necessary for Black survival in the 21st century. The brother wasn't shucking. It was about 900 some pages. The brother was not shucking. So all of us should know this brother. All of us should have this book. And the next time we do our retreat, some of the tactics and the strategies he's using, this is what we can use right here. So I want to do my libation now for Brother Amos, Dr. Amos N. Wilson. I share. Okay. Recently, let me see, 1995. But how I really found out about him, there was this radio, of course, a Black radio station in D.C., and they would have little snippets of him giving his speeches. So get a chance, go to YouTube and plug in Amos Wilson, and when you listen to some of this thing this brother had to say, he gonna fire you up, okay? He gonna fire you up. Okay.
As Cinnabar does that, this is the time in our service for our litany of sacrifice. And today it's going to be a lot different. We're the ZA committee of the Spiritual Life and Assistance Commission has been working on traditional Kemetic rituals and adapting them to our service in our community. So today will be the first time that we'll be doing what's termed as an offerings utterance in place of our regular litany of sacrifice. Please stand. Is it on? Because this is an offering to Amun Ra. And you can read along with me. An offering which the people give to Amun Ra, foremost of the Necharu, possessor of Waset, Lord of eternity and of everlastingness. We give praise and honor to Mother Mut and Kansu, as well as Geb, who produces thousands of gifts of every kind, so we may thrive. May we eat what you eat, drink what you drink, and live on what you live. May financial contributions and food offerings be brought at the sound of the words which have come forth from my mouth. May the ancestors express joy at our good works, for we were conceived in you and have brought to you the bread which we have found there. May all good things befall those who are faithful to the way, and may our prayers reach those who have not. As it was in the beginning, So shall it be today. Amen Ra Hetep. Oops, sorry. So that's the offerings utterance to Amen Ra. And I blessed the food offerings and presented them to Amen Ra. And so now it's the time for those in our community to make their offerings to Rose. And so Sister Mona is going around with the envelopes. And you may be seated now. Now it's time in our service for our message, and today we have someone who is well known to Rose, Professor Brother Manu Ampim, and he will come forward and give us some more information on the Save Nubia project and I believe his soon upcoming trip to the Sudan. So bring it forth, Brother Manu.
Good afternoon, Wose. Okay, good to see you all this afternoon. I have the I have the humble privilege of just sharing with you some ideas that we've been working towards for some months now. And I'm as Sister Fania mentioned, I'm going to be doing some field work in the Sudan, leaving in about a week or so, because the work is calling us. There's so much to do. So I want to share with you just briefly what has motivated some of the work. And I want to share with you, as I mentioned last week, the background and the context for a unique, what I would consider a groundbreaking calendar that we've presented regarding ancient Kush and Nubia. And So this is the calendar here. It's a wall calendar. We have some in the back. So I want to just share with you some of the details of the calendar, because we want to put some of the images in historical context, and also share with you a map, because there are no accurate maps of ancient Kush and Nubia. You can search high and low. It doesn't matter what source you look at. You can search the net with millions and millions of records, and there's just one piece of misinformation after another regarding both Kush and Nubia. So I want to share with you the map we created and give you some details, and then look at the images and some of the background. So what you saw here, this is the front of the calendar. Is this podium in the way? You want to see? Okay. And so 5,000 years of African history will be lost. A little lopsided, but I guess we can get away with it. Okay. So, and this is the back of it. So basically, we're indicating that these are ancient and modern images, because there are people who live in central and northern Sudan who live exactly in the same areas that represent one of the greatest civilization complexes in the history of the world. And this vast civilization complex regarding ancient Kush and Nubia, amazingly, is not on the World Heritage Site list. It's not even listed. So that's why people can go and do what they want, when they want, the way they want to, and most people are not even concerned about it, because they don't see these massive artifacts, this massive array of artifacts from pyramids, temples, tombs, ancient residential sites that pretty much go unnoticed. And there are people who live in the area who would like to maintain a connection with the ancestors. So it really requires that there be an international attempt to save what the ancestors have built. So anyway, this is just a brief description of that and the images. And this is part of the Save Nubia project, and many of you have contributed in one way or another. So as you know, last summer, July, Sudan was split. So South Sudan now is the newest country in the world, and there's tensions between the North and the South. But the artifacts that concern us are in the original Sudan. And in the South, you don't really have artifacts, but what you have is a living culture with rituals and daily practices and customs that are absolutely invaluable. And there's very little, if any, serious field work being done to capture the work, the practices in South Sudan, and I might add in South Ethiopia. And so this is part of what calls our work. Now, I'm inspired by one of the greatest primary researchers in the 20th century, and that's Dr. Chancellor Williams. So Wose did well several decades ago to make his book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, one of the core texts, a canon book. And you know what's interesting about The Destruction of Black Civilization is probably the most ignored classic in the world. You have an absolute classic that gets consistently ignored. And when people talk about the book, they just mention the title and then ignore the content of what the man is presenting. He has a whole section on primary research that gets ignored. He has a whole section on the African constitutional system that gets lightly glossed over, generally. And then the last part of the book is a view from the bridge. Where do we go from here? So in the tradition of what Brother Shango mentioned about Amos Wilson, you have a comprehensive understanding of a historian who connected his work to what do we do now. And he wrote his book in 1971. Now, in case you can't read the subtitle, there's great issues that were raised from 4500 BC to 2000 AD. So Dr. Williams projected 3 decades in the future of what the black world would look like. So his comprehensive view of the historical experience allowed him to paint a vision of what we can expect decades in the future. And yet it typically gets ignored. That's what's so phenomenal. But one thing that Chancellor Williams does, he makes one profound statement after another. And some of the statements that he makes, they can only be made by someone who's done the work. You can't imagine those kind of insights. You can't dream about those kind of insights unless you know. So Chancellor Williams is one who knows.
So to choose the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, to me, it couldn't really have been a better choice in terms of reconstructing the history. He explains exactly how we went from building pyramids to living in projects, in slums. And very few have attempted to address that comprehensive story. But one of the things that he says is that the greatest of all issues is right here in the general agreement that at the very earliest period known to mankind, an African civilization in the areas later called the Sudan and Egypt was fully developed, with all the arts of civilized life already matured, its beginnings being placed so far back into the early history of the world that it is beyond the reach of man. He said it goes so far back into antiquity that we can't even reach it, we can't even grasp it. That's why there's so much work to be done beneath the surface. There are artifacts in Sudan, yes, there are. But beneath the surface, you have a whole nother reality that has barely been addressed. And that's what he's dealing with. So Chancellor Williams is able to create a map. It's a general map, but it's a map of what he called the Ethiopian Empire. Now, you know that the Greeks did not know how to speak or read any African languages, so all the names were changed. Every name was changed, so they changed from Kush to Ethiopia. So when Dr. Williams outlines the Ethiopian Empire, it's amazing insight that gets ignored usually. Because what he's painting is a vast empire. He describes this in his work. But the vast Kushite or Ethiopian Empire encompassing numerous countries in Northeast Africa, but also expanding across the Red Sea into Saudi Arabia and Yemen. This is exceptional insight because the archaeological record and the linguistic text definitely bears out Dr. Williams, but we need to update his work. And it doesn't benefit us to use Dr. Williams' work as a mattress to lie down on, but a springboard to do greater work in the 21st century. Because people have often done that with Dr. Ben and Clark. I remember when I had just returned from doing work in 12 countries in Europe, because all the artifacts had been stolen and taken to museums, institutes, and libraries, and doing field work in Africa. I was in Baltimore in a bookstore in everyone's place, and I met a brother. We talked for a minute, and he thought about it. He looked at a couple of books. He said, "Brother, didn't you say you just came back from Europe?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Why would you do something like that when Dr. Ben has done all the work? There's nothing more to do." And that's probably the only time in my career that I had no response. You know why? Because some things you don't even talk about. The level of foolishness and misinformation is so deep and profound, I just figured that it was a waste of time. It's like my father said, something you don't even talk about. So I just walked off. I had a response in my head. I said, you know what? This is irrelevant. I'll simply address it in my writings and in other arenas. But this is what some people have how they've approached it. That Dr. Ben or Clark or Sheikh Anta Diop or Chancellor Williams have done all the work. When they have not. They have been great pioneers and pointed the direction. And I know this, and we know this if we simply go into enemy territory, as Dr. Williams says, and linger there. Because you can linger in enemy territory, there's a whole lot of things that they teach among themselves. And not only that, but some of you may not know this, to show you what the historical opposition sees about our work. This is the official view, that Sheikh Anta Diop, who I would call the Pharaoh of African Studies, and his colleague Theophile Obenga, who was here in the community for some years. Officially, they consider Sheikh Anta Diop and Obenga, I'm talking about mainstream Egyptologists, as laypersons simply writing about Kemet. They don't see them as Egyptologists. You know why? Because neither one of these giants have a degree that specifically says Egyptology. So they dismiss their work as laypersons making comments about Kemet, as opposed to specialists in the field. These are Kemetologists, and not simply Egyptologists. So all the work has not been done. So anyway, but his map here, I was inspired by this, and he has Nubia as the southern part of the Ethiopian or the Kushite Empire, and Kemet as the northern part. So it was interesting, but there's more details to fill in. So using his idea and my own field work and primary research over the last 20 years, we've created two maps. On the left is a map of ancient Kush, and it's the area of Northeast Africa encompassing different countries such as Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, places like Ethiopia, Djibouti, you name it, Eritrea, and across the Red Sea, Yemen, Saudi Arabia. And so it's this area here, vast reach, and Somalia. So that's the area that Chancellor Williams is talking about, and it's interesting. And I've gotten correspondence from people from Somalia more than once that they've found artifacts that they think relates to Kemet, but as laypersons they weren't sure. And I think the last person was really excited, gave me a call from out of the country, but he never sent me the picture. I said, well, let me see the picture. And I can give you some feedback on what culture it comes from and the time period. But we didn't get that, but that wasn't odd to me because it's been pretty consistent that the artifacts and a lot of the cultural practices are very similar. Not the same, but similar in the region. And nevertheless, so this is a very important map that we've created. It's the first because most people don't know. So the heartland of Kush is actually in northern Sudan, in this area here. So it's a vast civilization, but it's in northern Sudan. And that's the heartland, and that's where a series of dams are being built that are flooding the area that threaten to turn the living Nile River into a series of isolated lakes. But at the bottom of that would be these Kushite artifacts that should be saved. And the other map here is a map of, so this again is part of the old ancient Kushite empire, as you see here. But what is needed is an understanding that all of the areas south of Kemet, and you see the border here, all these areas are not Nubian. They never have been. If you look at the contemporary Nubians and where they live, the contemporary Nubians live no further south today than they ever have. So if you want to find Nubians, so my brother Tayyip was in Aswan. So my brother Abdul, he's in Aswan, he's a shop owner. So, you know, some of you go on to Kemet, so if you go not down south, if you go up south, where it says the first cataract, this is Aswan. This is where you find a large concentration of Nubians, of Africans. So in this area to maybe the third cataract, right here, this is where you find Nubians of the past and Nubians of today. You check any map you want. Go online and find these so-called scholarly books, like one recent one, The Kingdom of Kush, nothing but propaganda and misinformation, to say the least. They would like us to think that all of this is like Nubia. It's not. The Nubians were generally by the second cataract, but at one point they did extend south to the third. But all the rest of this is Kush. So what we try to do is to show that on the map of Nubia. So this area here is what I'm talking about. This is Nubia. And the Nubian culture does not extend any further south than the area you see here. And we know that from the archaeological record, the linguistic text, as well as where the people live today. This may not seem like much, but I can tell you one thing. There's a whole lot of money that's been spent on books about the so-called, in quotations, black pharaohs by people who are nothing but propagandists. So it's like to dismiss the African details of the different cultures and ethnic groups and linguistic groups and just give everybody the generic name of a Nubian because they don't know. So you look at the average so-called scholarly book and everybody, everything is Nubian. So the Kushites are Nubians, the people from Wawat are Nubian, people from every single area are Nubian because they don't know. And they spread ignorance by just trying to give everybody a generic term. And I think I had shared before that this misinformation is so widespread that there's a brother that was helping me last summer, and he is Sudanese, and he even told me that everybody in Sudan comes from Nubians. I said, what did you say? What kind of statement is that? I said, this has nothing to do with facts. And the man was arguing his point. And you know what his main claim to authority was? That he was born in Sudan. I had two words. So what? That don't mean anything. You don't. I said you need to focus on your field of natural healing because you don't know. You mean to tell me that these groups from the south are from Nubia? I said this makes no sense whatsoever. I said this is absolutely the most stunning statement I heard all year. And you didn't take your behind the bed sleep on it because your comments make no sense at all. You got these vast cultures in the Sudan that have nothing directly to do with Nubians. So he wakes up in the morning, hey brother, you know, I was thinking about it. You're right. These groups, many of them like the Dinka, the Nur, and all these other groups, they're not related to Nubians. I said, why were you so adamant the night before? You have no further evidence this morning than you did last night. So you need to stay in your lane and focus on medicine and let me do what I do. And don't ever tell anybody that you know simply because you're from the Sudan. This is the most ridiculous statement. I say, I live in America, and there's people who know nothing about the country. So let's be clear. Anyway, so what we try to indicate here is that Nubia is simply, as Chancellor Williams was clear about, is simply the northern part of the Kushite Empire. The Nubian culture, it emerges later out of a much vaster Kushite Empire. And that's what the maps really, particularly one on the right, indicates. But what we are going to also do is put together a detailed chronology, an annotated chronology with references, so that we will crush all of this internet nonsense that people have spent a lot of money on books like the Black Pharaohs. There's people in a so-called study group, they are reading the Kingdom of Kush, propaganda. It makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, so that's the maps created, and that's the area. So this wall map for next year is really to highlight the area and indicate ancient and modern images. And so this is one. Let me switch though and show you the actual calendar images. And I just want to say a little bit about them, just to put them in context. So let's see if how this is going to come out. I'm not sure. Okay, anyway, so this here, this is the image for January. All right, this is the image for January, and many of you, you probably have seen this image in many places. And so these are Kushite princes here. There's a number of them, and here you have a princess with her crown, and they're clearly from Kush. But most of the so-called scholarly text says these are Nubians. Based on what? This had nothing to do with Nubia. These people, this is from Kush. See, Kush has been ignored and dismissed. It's the most ancient of them. It goes back to antiquity. So we can't just stop at Nubia. Nubia is very important, but it's not the beginning of the story. So you have, and notice the beautiful images. And what's important here are not only the beautiful images of these high-level individuals who lived during the time of Tutankhamun, about 1350 or so BCE. This is from the tomb of Hui. But notice the color scheme. You find this up and down the Nile Valley, from Kemet to Nubia to Kush. They always, when they want to show more than one person, they give a contrast of black and brown. And this is so significant that almost in every case when you see somebody jet black, they say, oh, well, these must be the real Africans, the black pharaohs, the real so-called Nubians. When you find black and brown images, not everybody's the same skin tone, but you find the same contrast and pigmentation also in Kemet as well. And then you have a person who is bearing gold. This says Nebu. You see that? And this is an image. And they've actually reproduced this in the British Museum. So if any of you get a chance, you see this in the British Museum. But this is our, this is the January image here. And we have a small description of what it is so that people will know. And then for the February image, this is it here. I was briefly commenting on this last week. And again, you have, this is the classic image from the South. And you see the feathers, the looping earrings. You say, yeah, well, all of them are jet black. Yeah, but you missed this person here. This is just one person. You see, when they show depth, they show black and brown. And then notice the Africoid child. Notice the plaited hair, clearly African. And this is hard to see here, but there's actually two children. One beautiful brown skin, the other one is jet black. And there's variations of black. I learned that when I went to the Sudan. There's blue black, there's super black, there's wild black, there's great black, there's amazing black, there is super black, there's rich chocolate, and there's any kind of shade of brown you can ever imagine. I mean, so, and all indigenous, completely indigenous. So you have the children there. So that's important to know. And you have other things. Notice that they use animals, cowhide, the tails there. You see that? Mm-hmm. Most people miss these. These are high-level individuals here, to say the least. And this is from, again, the tomb of Hui. Now, let me show you this here. This is not in the calendar, but I want to just give you a perspective that this is the pyramid at El Kuru, Amani, and underneath the pyramid you do have a burial, and you have this is different from Kemet. This is very different.
Okay.
In Kemet and the pyramids you don't have burials. So later on you do have burials. The original pyramids, no burials, no bodies, no skeletons, no mummies, no attempt for burial. They start using these grand structures as burials later. So there's an evolutionary development, or not, there's a cultural development as time goes on. This is from the 8th century before the Common Era. And El Kuru, this is in the northern area. It's one of those pyramid sites that most people don't go to. But underneath this pyramid here of one of the great rulers, the son of Shabaka of the great 25th dynasty, and this image is in the pyramid here. So as many of you can see, you have the stars here representing ascension. And this is the painted scene, a couple of images from the actual tomb itself. And these are classic images. Notice the closeness. And as many of you know, this is a deity. How do we know? Curved beard, representing the spirit world. Straight beard is among the living. So here you have the deity, and then you have the king himself. Now, you got to be careful because the associate editor of Kemetic magazine, the name is totally misleading because the guy has nothing to do with Kemet. He doesn't look like us, nor does he have an honest agenda. This guy who's associate editor of Kemetic magazine, published right here out of California, outrageous. When you see this kind of closeness, we need to examine it. Because to support his actions, his preferences, he would make us think that this kind of close relationship between the male king and the god, if you let him tell it, if we look at what he would have to say about it, that there's something going on sexually. Because you have the two brothers in Cairo. You have this tomb of Nyan Kunum and Kunum Hotep, and they're embraced. We don't know anything about these men, other than that they were brothers. We know their occupation, and that's it. We don't know details about these men. And the close embrace is suddenly turned into some same-sex encounter. Mess is actually the right term for mess. And I just happened, the ancestors was definitely in my corner one day. Is that I just happened some years ago to flip to a website, and it happened to have this man's presentation, Greg Reeder, and it happened to be the next day at UC Berkeley. I said, wow, this is interesting. So I went, and of course I was the only one, other than the sister who was with me, we were the only one that looked like us there. And I saw a Mickey Mouse scholarly presentation. So usually I don't say anything in those forums because I like to be incognito, take my notes, and keep it moving.
Right.
But this time I had to stand up.
Okay.
I said, Mr. Reeder.
Okay.
You gave a very interesting presentation. I noticed that there's 3 contradictions in your presentation. Number 1, what you call a homo. I said, you say this is some same-sex relationship, and I noticed that you don't even read the text. The Medu Neter text explains the scene. Oh, good point. Like, good point. This is the only point you need to consider. I said, number 2, you don't even mention once the divine embrace between male leaders, kings, and male deities like this. And sometimes the embrace is they're holding each other.
Right.
This is divine. I said, you don't mention that. So they act like he's taking notes. And I said, also, your commentary is totally misleading. Rather than saying the 2 men, you say deliberately the partners. To give an inference. This is totally misleading. There's no justification for it whatsoever. We don't know what the nature of the relationship was. So then after the presentation, some guy from the Castro district came up to me, you know what, let me say your partners with me. I said, I know that. That's why I said that. You ain't teaching me nothing. I grew up in the city. That's my point. The man was in total contradiction to mention that. I said, I don't care what he does, but you can't impose what you do on African culture, particularly with no evidence whatsoever. So we need to look at this kind of, you know, scene. So anyway, that, I don't know what month that is, but the, whatever month it is, the one after that, I lost track, is, this is an image here. Very misleading. Somebody went to the the Khartoum National Museum and said the image on the left was Taharka. We don't know that at all. It's not even mentioned. I don't know who it is. I'm standing right underneath a massive statue on the left here, and then made out of granite. And then this is the great Taharka, the greatest of all of the builders in the history of Kush. There's no builder greater than what Taharka represents coming out of Kush. So anyway, we got those two images here. They're very powerful when you see these images. They're not copying anybody. And everywhere you see Taharka building temples in the name of Amen. And this is some of the jewelry from Paranal. You have some of the most beautiful jewelry. And you know in pottery that this was done by Africans based on what? I'm glad you asked. We know this was done by Africans. If you take a look at the pottery on the left and right, it's obvious. Because,
Inclusion of animals?
absolutely. Sister Connie, can you say it again?
Inclusion of animals.
Absolutely.
Somebody else said it, I heard it.
Okay, somebody else did. The inclusion, you picked it up. The inclusion of animals and nature. You see that on pottery, on daily life items like makeup applicators. You see it on tools. You see it on beds, on chairs. You see the chair ending in the hoofs of a cow or the claws of a lion. And when foreigners came in, all of the references and the connection to nature is gone. The images are gone, and also the design of the animals are gone. That's how you know foreigners came in. Very important. So obviously this is the giraffe, snake here, and you see those images. And then you have the classic blacktop pottery. You want to know that the Nile Valley was one united cultural system? Look at the blacktop pottery. There's no way to really tell the difference. They burn the pottery, but it's a classic design. And one thing that separates one culture from another is the production of pottery. It's a specific cultural expression. And yet, as many pots as I've seen, there's no way I can make a distinction. It's very difficult because it's all the same. And then you have all kind of different jewelry, necklaces. But we wanted to include some of those items because it's very special. And I love pyramids. It's like the favorite monument, so we had to put some of those in. Anybody have a guess of where these images are from? I know it's difficult because you have 223 pyramids in Sudan. And that's twice as many as there is in Kemetic. This is in Nuri. So what you have are pyramid fields in various areas in Sudan. So the pyramids in Nuri built for kings, queens, and high officials. And the angles are different than what you see in Kemetic. And the layouts are all different. Usually they're like in a circle, semicircle. And so for someone to argue, as the people who run the Black Pharaohs idea, they want to say the 25th dynasty were the Black Pharaohs to suggest that all of the pharaohs before that were not black.
Right.
So we should never use that term.
Yeah.
That's redundant anyway. We know the pharaohs were black by nature, so why are we repeating ourselves? Doesn't make any sense. So these are the pyramids of Nuri, and last time I went, no one was there, other than me and my colleague. Nobody. And so you need perspective. That's what I like to take shots. This is my colleague. He's been calling me excited about me coming because he's there to help with the field work. And this is Sorowat, and this is also at Nuri. So it's best to take shots so you can get a perspective on the size of the monuments. Many times people take the monuments by themselves, you don't have perspective. But here he is here, and you know, they survive in to various degrees. It really depends on what happened at those sites. A lot of times archaeologists are the biggest destroyers of monuments. Not time, but the modern 19th, 20th century so-called archaeologists. And then here's my colleague again. And this is at Bagwawia near Meroe. This is one of the vast pyramid sites. People say these are pyramids of Meroe. They're not at Meroe. Meroe is the capital city that Chancellor Williams talks about. That may have had 20,000, 25,000 people. Meroe, the powerful capital city with a vast Amen temple. Very impressive. You see pot fragments everywhere because it was a vast region. It really is. And the only thing that a person would know about the power of Meroe is an old, beat up, tattered sign. It just says archaeological site. That's it. That's all it says. And the villagers are right on the other side of the fence paying the monuments and the artifacts, no mind at all. And nobody goes there. It's an old sign that you actually have to look for. It's not very obvious, and no one is around. There's not even a guard. There's not even a ticket booth. Meroe, one of the greatest cities in the history of antiquity, and yet no one's there. So the pyramids are not at Meroe. There's a couple miles away. These pyramids are at Baguia, which is nearby. There's a difference. Right? San Francisco is nearby, but it's not open. So you can't say, if you travel, you can say San Francisco just so people know. But we know that there's a distinction here. So anyway, there's many pyramids in this area, and these are chapels. Chapels in front of the pyramids. And notice that these are totally different angles than what you would see in Kemetic. So they're not just simply copying. This is their own cultural expression. And then we get to the people themselves. I would have loved, and we'll do this next time, I want to have a calendar with just the pyramids. But these are the Montesir people. They're farmers that were near the fourth cataract that was flooded. So their whole lands are underwater, really hospitable brothers. And this is their farmland under the water. And these are date trees. They are date farmers, and that's how they survived before the Meroe Dam flooded their area. So we needed to put that in there. And they asked me, they said, brother, please take an image of us among our crops and take all of our trees and tell people that we're farmers. That's why we don't want to move. We want to be connected to our land. I said, I will do that. So these are Montesir. They're not Nubians, by the way. Oh, by the way, you know what the Los Angeles Times called these Arab farmers. Let me make this a little larger. Now let's see if you agree with the LA Times. They said that these are Arab farmers. The only thing I can say, I didn't get that impression that they were Arab farmers. Can you see? What's your impression? They're as African as they come. Arab farmers? Are you kidding me? Let's be serious. Yeah, they just make up stuff. Okay, now here are what you see. This is part of the calendar image. On the left is Sherry Island, and with the Meroe Dam, all that's left of the girls' school are the front gates. That's it. You can see the water. So it's amazing that that's all that's left for the gates. This is Dab Shembo here on the right with a few of his children. His area will be next if nothing is done. This is in the second cataract area where the Dal Dam, D-A-L Dam, is scheduled to be completed. So I look forward to going and checking in with Mr. Dab Shembo to see what's happening. And then on the left here is more of his family members who were very hospitable. They didn't know us from Imhotep, but they were very hospitable when we came through last year. And they definitely don't want their land flooded. Another month we have Brother Ehab, was very helpful. The brother took more than 2 days out of his schedule to make sure that we saw all of the sites in his area. And my mission became his mission. So it wasn't what I needed to do, it was what we needed to do. And the brother said that all he needs is a camera to help document what's happening in the area. This is his home, his car there, and this is inside of his home on the left. This is a beautiful design made out of cow dung, but the design is, I know you can't see it that well, but very, very well done. This sister here, Sama, was a college student, and her home has already been flooded. So she's been displaced, and there might be 10,000 people displaced if the Dal Dam is complete. And then we have what has already happened. This is Phila Temple. Many of you have been to in the south, in Nubia. And part of the year when the Aswan High Dam was being built, this temple was being flooded, submerged every year. And here are people on boat. Can you imagine that, boating on temple grounds? That's insane. And so that's, I think that's the last year, December. Then in the back of the calendar, we have the maps that I showed you, and then we have to always highlight primary research. So this is kind of the back of the calendar. Me and my colleague, Sorwat, who's excited about doing the work. I think he wants to change careers too, and make this a part of his work. And then you see pyramids in the back. The only reason I didn't walk over there, it was burning hot and I had no more energy left. And no energy. So I just take a picture of this. And at least say that we were here. So anyway, these are the images you wanted to put, you know, in perspective what's really happening. And I think it's, you know, it's a practical thing to have the calendar to highlight and promote the mission. That's really why we created the Save Nubia calendar. I wanted to just give you a background on that. But it's so much more work to be done, but we're making solid progress. And you actually are sitting really on the ground floor of a project that is gaining international support. I went online and looked for something, and someone had taken some of the articles that we had written, and they posted it and reposted. They didn't give us, they didn't notify us, but that's okay. The word is really out there. And the next thing we're going to do is January. You might want to write this down. January 26th will be the next event, and we'll have a Save Nubia Project seminar to give an update, because I'll be fresh from the field, so I know exactly what's happening. We'll have some fresh insight about what's happening. So January 26th, we'll have our next event. The seminar is going to be at Merritt College. Yeah, so we're at Merritt, and so we're in good shape. So I thank you for listening. I just wanted to give you an update on what we're doing and what needs to be done. But please be careful when you go on the internet, because just about everything that you ever hear or read or see about Kush and Nubia is nothing more than Western nonsense and propaganda. It really is. It's stunning how people make up things. So I told my colleague, you need to stop passing and distributing this stuff, because it's totally misleading. It's best not to say anything. Because and not only that, but why promote people and their works? We need to keep the money in the community. You got a book being promoted out there called The Kingdom of Kush. Are you kidding me? Then in there, he's got descriptions and calling people Nubian, just total confusion. They don't know. So we're going to put together a very comprehensive chronology and really sort these things out. And I think that'll be one of our significant contributions, to be able to see the relationship between Kush and Nubia and Kemetic, and write our own African world history textbook. So thank you very much. Hotel.
Okay, if we can all come together and get around.
Any questions of
Some questions.
of the work that's been shown?
So we have a question and answer section, or?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't the, when you were showing the images of Kushite images where they had the words for gold and other words, wouldn't that indicate linguistic origin of Metanet?
Maybe not the origin, because those...
Or at least a relationship?
Relationship, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because those images are not the oldest, but yeah, you show the relationship,
Right.
no doubt. And it tells us who the people were.
Right.
Yeah, that's very important.
And it would destroy that imaginary wall that they put between Kim and the rest of that.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No doubt. Okay.
Brother.
Mr. Fanian. Oh, okay, some of the Save Nubia products are in the back. Calendars and pins, flashlight, and other things to help the project. So
Brother,
it's on the back table.
Yeah, I wonder if you would reflect for a minute on the use of the name Tasseti. Do you launch the same critique of that as you have the word Nubia? Can you tell us about Tasseti, whether it consisted of what? Is it Joey and some of the other smaller settlements?
Okay, so the term Tasseti?
Yes.
Okay. So, Ta Seti means land of the bow, And Tassetti came into our awareness mainly when excavation work was done by the University of Chicago Oriental Institute. So when the Aswan High Dam was being built beginning in 1960, they went in to southern Egypt and northern Sudan, and the researchers under the authority of Keith Seal, they found the city of Kustul and 33 royal tombs. And the city of Kustul was in the larger kingdom of Tassetti. The kingdom of Tassetti was in Nubia. In the country of Nubia, you have the country of Nubia and then the kingdom of Tassetti. And within Tassetti, there's the city of Kustul. In Kustul, 33 royal tombs. And so Tassetti was one of those kingdoms that would have been part of larger Nubia. The relationship to Wawat and the other places, that really has to be further investigated. I think that's really the best way, because we have to investigate. I have some ideas, but I want to reserve and say that Tassetti is very important, because we know, and what Brother Davis is saying, what we know from the kingdom of Tassetti, a number of artifacts were found, including the incense burner that's at the University of Chicago, notice the name, Oriental Museum, Institute Museum. So to study Africa is usually the Near East, the Orient, and some other misdirection. But the incense burner clearly indicates 3 royal boats, royal ships, with images of royalty and Medu Necher, the bound captive, the palace facade, all those things that later show up in royal imagery in Kemetic. But Tassetti is at least a couple hundred years, if the chronology that we have is correct. Tassetti existed a couple hundred years before the emergence of Kemetic, and Tassetti is to the south of Kemetic. So it's one of the most important discoveries, the kingdom of Tassetti, because the artifacts are set in stone, literally. And it clearly shows that and there's one other counter argument that the opponents use. They say, wait a minute, this incense burner was probably brought there by people from Egypt in the north, and when they were trading, that incense burner somehow shows up in Tassetti. I said, that's a very strange argument, because there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of artifacts that were found in Tassetti, and the only one that you want to point out is coming from the north is the one that clearly shows that the culture spread from south to north. And besides, where's your evidence? You know, documentation beats conversation. You're speculating. It doesn't make any sense. And if that incense burner was created in the north and sent to and shows up in the south doing trade, show me another incense burner in the north. It's not. It doesn't have to be logic. So the whole goal is to try to dismiss Tassetti, because it's very important. And then one last thing, there's a lot to say about Tassetti and the incense burner. And by the way, this last thing is that Keith Seal at the Oriental Institute Museum, this man's thesis, his thesis is that they came from the east. He said that the civilization in the Nile Valley came from Asians, Western Asians, who came and created the civilization in Kemet, and that's how the whole civilization began. So that was Keith Seal's thesis before he led the expedition in the 1960s. And guess what? And then they found this unmistakable royal artifacts from royalty in the south, in Tassetti. So what did Keith Seal say? Nothing. The man died and never said a word. He never said anything. So after Keith Seal died, the man who led that expedition, then one of his assistants, Bruce Williams, was then able and competent enough to come and give a statement to the New York Times in 1979. In March of 1979, this is the first time that the world heard about Tassetti. This was basically 17 years after they had started to excavate. The artifacts were already, it was clear. It was a clear picture that Tassetti was very important and that it predated Kemet. Keith Seal never said anything. The man died, omitting what he already knew. And Bruce Williams said Seal suspected that this was royalty, but he never said anything. And so Bruce Williams came out to the New York Times in March of 1979. 17 years. It doesn't take 17 years to get a picture of what's found. So Tassetti is one of the most important areas, one of the most important kingdoms that have emerged. Sorry to go on, but it's a lot to say. We can do a whole class or 2 or 3 or 4 or 6, whole series on Tassetti.
Just spell Tassetti.
T-A-S-E-T-I. It means land of the bow. Bow and arrow. Yeah, Tassetti.
And mention your website and that people can donate on the website and that you're accepting money today as donations if people want to do that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the SaveNubia.org. Yes, SaveNubia.org. You can donate. We're looking to raise $50,000 to field a research team of 7 people. So that's our task. And it's going to get done. It just depends on how soon. But trust me, it's going to get done. I didn't choose the mission chose me. It's clear that it's going to get done. I'll tell you one thing, I know we have to go. One thing I have to do when I go in a week and a half, I got to determine, along with my colleague, how do we make the travel and the accommodations, how do we make it so that people can withstand the elements and the rigors? Because if not, the folks ain't going to be able to make it. It is rough and tough, and it's not a tourist country. Even my colleague was complaining about the weather and all. So it's tough. It's tough. So it ain't the hotels, and it's just nothing there. Yeah, in other words, the British destroyed the Sudan. In other words, destroyed, literally. Where are the roads? Destroyed. What about the transportation system? Forget about it. Communication system doesn't exist. Sewer system, forget about it. Doesn't exist. It's very difficult, very tough. So we had to figure out how do we find the resources to be able to field a team, because even if people are competent and qualified, I know for a fact there's no way the people can hold up for 3 weeks. Either they're going to mentally or physically.
Especially trying to keep up with you.
That's right, brother. In fact, I couldn't even walk in one of the years, and but yet when I got to Kemetic, I was energized, motivated, driven, and I made it. I had one slip because I had an Achilles issue. I had one slip where I yelled out, but nobody was around, so I got away with it. The only person around was the sister who was with me in the hospital. I said, "Don't tell anybody that the leader yelled out in pain. Don't document that." But it is tough, but it's exciting. It's absolutely exciting. When you're doing something that you're excited about, from my point of view, who cares about eating? Who cares about sleeping? Only thing I need is water. Give me water, I'm all right. Anyway, so thank you, folks, and hotel.
Okay, so in the services, here at the Wool State community, no place else you can get this kind of information. We have Brother Manu, primary researcher, does excellent work. His work is worthy of support. So I encourage everybody to check out his website, purchase some products, and let's support this work, because Brother Manu, we claim as our own.
Yes.
He's from the Bay Area here.
Yes.
Comes here to the Wool State community.
He's the son of a member.
Exactly. He's son of one of our founding members. So his work is strong. He's well motivated. So the least we can do is support that effort.
Ashe.
And so, brother.
Any announcements?
That's right. We want to get to some announcement. If anybody has any announcements, or if there is any birthdays.
Well, one announcement, the food that was offered to Amun Ra during the utterance, custom is that it can be eaten. So it's on the table, the bread and the fruit. So if you want to partake of it, you're welcome to.
Okay, any more announcements?
Just giving it some thought. I do a drum class every other Friday, and let's see, what is this Friday? Is the is the
21st.
So,
What time?
7 o'clock.
Right here?
Right here.
And how long does it go?
Men, women, and children.
Yeah.
Right. And also I'd like that the Stones of Fire rehearse on Wednesdays. So if anyone out there with a voice and got song inside of you that's just bursting to come out, then we rehearse here on Wednesdays at 7:30. All right, so it doesn't look like there are any more announcements, so
birthday?
where?
This one, December 19th, Shango. And Connie.
Oh, Shango was being coy.
Was Wednesday.
Dispose his age.
12.
Dispose his
He
age.
was being all coy. He didn't say anything about a birthday.
Conspicuously silent, brother.
Unusual.
Birthdays are important. They're a blessing.
You're kind of shy, yeah.
So, Brother Shango and Sister Connie last week, right?
Brother Davis the week before.
Yeah.
Brother Davis week before. But any birthdays this week? Anybody?
I believe today is Minister Greg's mother's birthday.
Yeah.
I think it's
Right.
today.
That's right. That's right. 85th.
And Brother Greg is in travel to be with her. Okay.
Chancellor Williams, December 22nd.
That's right. Okay, Brother Ali. And to the one that's able to lift us up on high, let us remember that one phrase that we are one people,
One people.
having
One faith. One faith.
one God,
One aim.
one God.
One God.
And let's say that name of old.
You are the
most beautiful people
on the face of this earth.
Come on, good presentation. Appreciate your work, man. Proud that you have.
Oh, yeah, we forgot.
You'll come back again, sister. Then you try to take out all right, good. Y'all have a good day, and I'll start something.
Okay, when I run the Scantron card through, if somebody's borderline, they missed a lot. I know somebody where I have to read it.
Okay.
Or if they are borderline on the Scantron solid, I'm going to have to read through it.
Okay.
But then there's some that
You're right.
they are pretty much locked in with
It was good to have you.
I don't care what it is, but it's still going to be or C, or some, there's no way they can pass it.